What's going on? You listen to King Cam Ujumbe Podcast, and Ujumbe means message. And today's message is Karnak's Hypostyle Hall, Echoes of the Pharaohs. Yeah, we're going to get into that today. I hope all is well with you. Get you something to write on, something to write with, and we're going to get into something serious today. I'm always excited about everything, but this one here, this is going to be good. So yeah, like I said, sit back, relax, get you something to write on, something to write with, and we're going to get right into it. We're going to get right into it. We're going to talk about Karnak's Hypostyle Hall, the Echoes of the Pharaohs. Think about, I have never been there yet, but think about approaching Karnak Temple in the heart of ancient Thebes or Waset. This is the lifeline, the lifeblood of the Nile. So the morning sun glints off of sandstone pylons carved with images of the Neteru, the ancestors and kings, and the air carries a faint aroma of incense. Yeah, the aroma of incense are filling the temple courtyards. The priests, after chanting or giving lessons, they're in their linen robes and they're chanting old hymns that are over 1,000 years old up until that point. That ripple across open spaces, carrying echoes and messages from the earth to the heavens, right? And as you pass through the grand pylons into the hypostyle hall, there's over 134 massive columns that rise like the forest in stone. All right, greetings everyone. Hit the like button. And thank you, Sister Linda, for coming. Yeah, this it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. Yes, I'm glad that you have come. I'm glad that you made it. But yeah, we're gonna get into the temple. On our podcast, we've been dealing with people and places. I felt it was necessary that we get to deal with some of these sacred sites, right? So before I get all the way into it, the question is, what did the Hypostyle Hall represent beyond architecture? Yeah, it's always something deep, right? How did light, sound, and ritual transform space into a sacred experience? Number 3, what does the Hypostyle Hall reveal about the spiritual science of kingship? Matter of fact, the spiritual science of Kemet. And so why does Karnak still speak to us today, right? So today, I know it's kind of different. We're going to do a little intro and a review. We're going to deal with the architectural marvel, the column symbolism, and space. We're going to be unveiling the architects of power. We're going to deal with festivals and sacred ceremonies. We're going to deal with the whisperers of belief, daily life, astronomical alignments, and cosmic symbolism, the echoes of the pharaohs, and I'm checking roll. Yeah, I'm checking roll. So think about it. As you go through these grand pylons, when you go through this space, okay, I'm trying to get all this together. Hold on. As you're going through this space, there's like I said before, over 134 massive columns that rise like a forest of stone. The sunlight pierces only a few openings, creating a narrow beams of light that shift across the meta nature, and the walls and reliefs. As the day moves, it seems like they're moving. Right, the scale is overwhelming, and each column is taller than a modern building. This is not just a place where they just come to marvel at. This is an active sacred space. This is a theater of power, a cosmic map, a living testament to the ambition of the pharaohs and the ancestors who sought to bridge the human and the divine. They tried to connect the physical with the metaphysical, with the spiritual. So today we're going to explore almost every facet of Karnak's temple. Yeah, we're going to deal with the architecture. We're going to deal with the rituals, cosmic alignments, the whispers, and everything. So, like I said, it can go. But remember this. Remember when we had the discussion, temple complexes and the majestic gateway from Karnak to Hatshepsut's divine blueprint. The temple is a cosmic machine, right? And it is in ancient Kemet, in ancient Africa, the temples were living mirrors of the universe. Every stone was aligned with the rhythms of the cosmos. Solar solstice, lunar cycles, stellar rises, as well as Sirius. Deep in this sacred landscape of Waset, there was a certain different kind of life in the Golden Horizon. There stands a temple, not just a building, but something that's called into being, a sacred space, right? And so the Temple of Karnak was never just stone by itself. It was a living text. It was a living book, a temple of harmony, a vessel of divine frequency. To the ancient Kemetic priesthood, Karnak was not just a seat where Amun-Ra sits, but the very throne of cosmic memory and energy, where the mysteries of light, sound, and order were woven into the physical world. Now it wasn't designed randomly. They were oracular machines. They were designed to conduct the divine energy, elevate the priesthood, and initiate the soul. Now, the architecture encoded myth, math, as well as metaphysics. All right, yeah. I see, Brother Issa. Greetings, Brother Issa. What's going on? Yeah, this is about to get different. So, but yeah, these temples were dedicated to not just the Neteru, but to the ancestors. They had a sacred lake reflecting the watery waters of Nun, but that's the place where, say, Amun emerged. And then, of course, there was this thing called a sacred blueprint, right? The temples were microcosms and sacred spaces. Each room, each pillar, each courtyard represent the stages of creation and the parts of the body or zones of the cosmos. So, and of course, when we broke it down last time, we talked about how it represented the body of a person, right? The first pylon, the very front, represent the feet. The Hypostyle Hall, which we're going to get into now, represent the lungs, the ribs, and even the heart. The sanctuary of Amun-Ra is the heart and the seat of the divine power. And then the solar bark shrine, Barque, okay, is the womb, the sacred place, right? And so, yeah, so when you get a chance, check out the Karnak complex, solar thrones, and ritual power. Check it out. So here it is. Like I said before, it was dedicated to Amun and the ancestors, and it was a sacred lake, the portal of reflection. Okay, the Hypostyle Hall and the Opet Festival. Now, this is what the complex looks like. I know the little thing is off, but now this is where we're going to be. Okay, for those who are writing it down and studying, we're right in the middle. Okay, we're going to be in the middle. All right, the Karnak complex, and it represents the human person, the human body. And this is the grand scale of Karnak. Okay, this is how large this place is. Okay, and it is of course the Jesaru or the Holy of Holies is in the easternmost part of it. Okay, and the hall with this 134 columns reaching skyward is not just architecture. It is a sacred text carved in sandstone. It is a forest of papyrus, stalks petrified into eternity, evoking the swamp of creation where life first stirred from the primordial waters of Nun. And so, yeah. And so now get this, the hidden name Amun is called the Veiled One. The temple honors Amun-Ra, and whose name is also means the hidden one, and the one who shouldn't be known. He is the Neter who conceals his essence behind all appearances, and a deity of paradox and mystery, right? So Amun represents that which cannot be spoken, only experienced. Okay, his presence at Karnak is not static, but it is dynamic, invoked through ritual color, and incense and light. Now, if you are enjoying the content so far, hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss anything. But we're going to get right into it. Now, here we go. The Hypostyle Hall, the Forest of Stars, Pillar, and of Sound. Now, before I get to that, I got a question though. Would you rather read the stars like a Kemetic priest or read minds like a Nubian seer? He said, I got the question. Got to the question earlier. Yeah. Would you read the stars like a Kemetic priest or read minds like a Nubian seer? And speaking of that, I have if we get 10 today, if we get 10 super chats or super thanks, we may do just a dedicated video just on just symbolism and esoteric knowledge. That's it. Yeah. I know we deal with history a lot. I know we deal with places and things like that and people, but if we get 10 super chats or super things, we'll do it. We'll do a video on it. Let's go. Now, here it is. Above the ceiling is painted like with golden stars and celestial sky. Below the stone floor grounds you in the earth. Okay, between them you walk a vertical axis, a human spine, a path ascent, in a sense, a kundalini corridor awakening to the divine memory. The priest or the kariheb is a sound worker who walk through these sacred columns, invoking the names of the Neteru, the ancestors, not to recite, but to reweave it back and forth into creation, right? And so here's the sacred lake here, the portal of reflection, as above, so below, because at night, you can see the stars reflected in that lake. And we're going to talk about that in a few minutes, how this temple is also aligned with stars. Let's get it. Now, at Karnak, the sacred lake was a mirror through which the priest could commune with the stars. And like I said, by night, it is still a surface reflected the constellations, turning the lake into a star map. Ceremonies, because there's several groups of priesthoods that are out here. Okay, during the day we have the priesthood of Ra or Amun, and then at night we have Kansu. We have the night priests there, and so they do ceremonies of lunar, and in the daytime solar renewal, where they're performed. They're connected to temple time with cosmic time. It is both a mirror and a portal and a purifier. All right. So of course we have the Festival of Opet, but remember that these temples were seen as a stargate, a portal to the Duat, where the ancestors can traverse back and forth. It's not just a place where they just go and look and marvel and recite some information. Things are happening there, both seen and unseen. Right. And of course, we have the magnificent Jeshurun, Holy of Holies, where Hatshepsut, we brought that temple down also. So where Hatshepsut is, that's a different thing altogether, but it's layered. Okay, just like the Temple of Karnak, the Temple of Hatshepsut is layered by different spaces and by degrees. Right. Now, if you want to know more about that, check out the temple complex and the majestic gateway from Karnak to Hatshepsut's temple. Now, let's go. Now, here we go. Here it is. The architectural marvel, okay? Columns, symbolism, and space. Now, in these sacred halls, they may pronounce or they may enunciate or sing a hymn to Amun, or the hidden one, from the papyrus laden 350. It says, "Hail to thee, Amun Ra, Lord of the thrones of the two lands, chief of Karnak, mighty bull of his mother, foremost of all the Neteru, maker of men, creator of all animals, Lord of things that are, maker of what is, creator of what shall be." As this thing is being recited, within the very walls of Karnak, so too it guides us now, even in this time. Okay. Now, get this. Oh, let me see what's going on. Thank you, Brother Isu. Thank you very much. He is a awesome member. He's a member. So yeah, that's one. We got 9 more. So yeah, because there's something I want to share, but I don't want to waste your time or my time, right? But that information, it's something I want to break something down, just strictly symbolic, strictly esoteric. And Brother Ferguson would really appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you very much. Brother Isu and One Voice Africa is also a member of the Ujumbe fam. And so shout out to the fam. Let's get it. So the Hypostyle Hall is architectural poetry, right? And it's 12 central columns right in the middle, soar over 21 meters. It's carved as a papyrus stalks bound together. It looks like scrolls in stone. the surrounding 122 smaller columns. Okay, we're right in the middle, y'all. We're right in the center right here. Okay, so it's lined up right in the middle with the 12. Okay, and then on the outside of each side there are smaller columns designed as reeds to form an immense symbolic force. The ancestors wanted you to feel like you are in a forest. You see what I'm saying? A forest that represents the primeval swamp from the south. Okay, a swamp from which life and kingship fully emerge. Walking through this hall, you can feel enveloped by creation itself. Okay, every column, every wall, every ceiling is etched with the meta nature and reliefs depicting battles, divine offerings, and ceremonial processions. The scale was intentional. They wasn't playing. Okay, the visitors were dwarfed by these columns, experiencing the Insubiti's power. Okay, the pharaoh's power and the divine presence of simultaneously, right? And so even the ceiling tells a story. Yeah, even the ceiling tells a story. Painted with stars, constellations of the Egyptian night sky. The ceilings transform the hall into a cosmic theater. Priests could navigate rituals in precise alignment with the stars, making the Hypostyle Hall a living astronomical instrument, a bridge between the terrestrial and the celestial. Now, get this. A lot of people would say that this is just they're making pillars. They are, I think, y'all let me know, like and comment below. These are representative of the Kenyan baobab trees. Yeah, back in the south, back in where Congo and those other areas where the rainforest was prevalent. They was calling back a more of a ancient memory where the great ancestors, where they came from the foothills of the mountains of the moon, is nothing but forest in Central and South Africa. So they was building something that their grandparents and their great-grandparents and so on saw. They saw the great forest and they brought it to Kemet. Yeah. And so they, like I said, they would go through the rituals and they would align it with stars. So this became a forest of papyrus, a forest of knowledge. Now think about the hall itself. The sensation is, like I said, I haven't been there yet, but I plan on going. But I know it's going to be amazing. Massive columns soar like trunks of cosmic trees or capitals, blossoming as papyrus and lotus flowers. Shout out to Brother Volta and them. They mentioned the lotus flower. By the time the New Kingdom was in full effect, the lotus flower was very prominent. Okay, and it was used in multiple things for multiple reasons. The central part rises higher than the rest. Okay, its windows channeling sunlight and shafts with the hours, painting the columns in gold and shadow. Get this: each column is a hieroglyph. Each one together, they spell out a creation myth in stone. Now, I was on TikTok about last week, and somebody mentioned that some of these, one reads part A and another side reads part B. You have to actually, kind of give yourself some distance and read them both. They're not just one by itself complete. You got to read all of them both. Yeah. And so together they spell out a creation myth in stone. Their sheer number is 134. It's not by accident. Okay, they represent the infinite unfolding of creation, just as reeds multiply endlessly in the waters of the Nile. And shout out to the fam, genetically. That deals with genetics. This is a multiplicity, a multifaceted piece of work here, where just like the meta nature here is infinite, so is the genetics, the genetic knowledge is infinite. It goes generation to generation. New codes are being added over and over and over again. Yeah. So now from the pyramid text, it says the sky is clouded, the stars are darkened, the boughs are agitated, the bones of the earth tremble. The Neteru, the god, comes into being. the god is exalted. He appears as the first primeval mound. He shines as Ra in the horizon. Yeah. And so this was not just a place, say a hall of where people are going to hang out and chill out. This is where the Neteru and the ancestors met with the people. Okay, it was a cosmic swamp. It was designed to make you feel like you are in a forest where creation itself was replayed every dawn every day as sunlight streamed through its halls, illuminating the primeval papyrus of the forest. Now, so far we did a little review. We talked about the architectural marvels. Now we're going to deal with the architects of power. Yeah, we're going to deal with the architects. All right, we're going to deal with the people that deal with this kind of thing. And we're going to shout out to Brother Mo. We're going to deal with the Amun priesthood today and their initiations. Yep. Yeah, shout out to Brother Mo and the fam. Yeah, we're going to deal with that. We're going to deal with festivals and sacred ceremonies, whispers of divine belief, the daily life and astronomical alignments and echoes of the pharaohs today. Now, the architects of power. Now, King Seti the first was initiated in this monumental project. He was made king here, okay, seeking divine favor and immortal legacy. Each column and corridor was a statement, okay? It was a statement of authority. His son, okay, Ramesses II expanded the hall further, leaving inscriptions of military triumphs and religious devotion that would outlast centuries. But get this, let me see if I can get back to it. But this temple was not started by them. You see what I'm saying? It was not started by them. Let me see if I can get back to it. This temple was established by various kings in various ages. Okay. Like this middle section here, this top middle section was built by the kings of the Middle Kingdom. Then, of course, Tutmosis the First added something, okay, and so on. So each king added on to this great work. You see what I'm saying? So King Seti the First was made king and crowned king here, and his son also. Okay, yeah. So but by the way, fam, if you have any questions, feel free to get ready to ask those questions. We're about to get into it. All right, now, so these pharaohs understood, not just the pharaohs, but everybody around them understood that the stone could immortalize power, right? But their ambition required the labor of thousands. They had architects planning complex layouts, artisans carving intricate reliefs, workers transporting colossal sandstone blocks from distant quarries. So a lot these things were not built. The stones wasn't taken out of Egypt. They was imported from somewhere else, and chances are they was imported from Nubia. Okay, they had quarries outside the site where they would bring it up the Nile and build it there, right? And so the logistics hint at a sophisticated societal structure capable of achieving what modern engineers still marvel at and don't understand. And get this, slaves did not make this. Slaves did not build the Temple of Karnak. All right, for those in the back, all right? Now, the hall was also full of knowledge and power, okay? Its inscriptions broadcasting to visitors and rivals alike that the pharaoh was the one to pay attention to. He was divinely sanctioned, victorious in war, and eternal in legacy. Every column is a voice of authority, and every relief was a reminder that kingship is both earthly and sacred, especially to the people in Africa, right? Now, here it is. The power of Amun's priesthood. Yeah, we're going to talk about the temple within the kingdom. Now, the temple wasn't not only the heart of Waset or Thebes, it was the beating heart of Egypt itself. Within its walls, power was sculpted not only in stone, but also in spirit. The high priest, the Kariheb of Amun, of Amun, the guardians of the temple wealth and secrets, were among the most powerful men and women in the land. Sometimes rivaling the pharaohs they were sworn to serve. Now, by the late New Kingdom, the priesthood of Amun commanded an empire of its own. They got to the point to where they became very, very powerful. They owned fields that stretched across the Nile Valley, fleets of ships, and treasuries heavy with offerings. They employed scribes, architects, craftsmen, and even soldiers. So we know that the pharaoh had their own. We had the soldiers, and some of them were the Magi, but the priesthood of Amun had their own group. Yeah. So Karnak was a temple, but it was also a city within a city, a sacred government within the state. And get this. Now, there was a high priest that was named Menkheprere or Menkheprere. Okay, he wrote an inscription in the 21st Dynasty. Amun is Lord of the thrones of the two lands. His word is law. This is what the high priest is saying. His temple is eternal. Kings rise by his will and fall by his silence. A priest is saying this. They say, you may be king, but you can rise and fall at the will of the hidden one. And he says, I'm his servant who guards his mysteries, and no one sees his face but me. Wow. Yeah. That's what the priest said. That's what he said. He said, nobody sees his face but me. Yeah. Now, so my question is, this person made a strong statement. Who was priest Menkheprere? Who was he? Yeah, we're gonna talk about him in a second. I got some notes on him though. But yeah, who was this person that made this bold statement, right? And so stay tuned. Now, through rituals and processions, the priests reinforced Amun's supremacy and their own. The Great Opet Festival, where the ancestors or the Neteru statue journeyed from Karnak to Luxor, was as much as a political pageant as a spiritual one. So it was political and spiritual together, right? When the people saw the solar bark of Amun, Barque, of Amun gliding down the Nile, they were witnessing divine legitimacy being renewed annually. Each year, the Neteru's journey reaffirmed that Ma'at, or justice, truth, and balance was still being maintained, and that Thebes or Waset remained the pivotal and focal point of the entire world. But beneath the hymns of incense, a subtle tension kind of brewed. The pharaoh was a Sarah, or son of Ra, the hidden one, but and it was supposed to be the true source of kingship. But this was a time when the priests would grow so powerful that they can crown kings themselves, depose rulers, and controls Egypt's destiny from behind the temple's sacred walls. Yeah, these priests had a lot of power. Yeah. And so the Hypostyle Hall became their stage. It was their seat of power. Okay. The priests performed the dawn rites, lifting incense toward the rising sun. They weren't just singing praises or doing science or anything like that. They were invoking the living principle that kept the kingdom itself from collapsing. Amun the Invisible became the voice of divine order. His temple, the axis around which Egypt's spiritual and political power revolved. And then they said this. They had another hymn, the hymn to Amun. Hidden is his name as Amun. He is Ra in his rising, his Ptah in his crafts. All Neteru are 3 in 1. He alone makes kingship flourish. He breathes life into their nostrils. So in the Hypostyle Hall, that breath became stone. Power itself was sanctified. But my question still remains, though. Who is he? Who is Menkheprere of the 21st Dynasty? So I have something. Okay, this was from the Libyan period in Egypt. Okay, this was an article that I found that I read. I'm gonna try to put that in the and also in the description also. All right, put that in there. Okay, this talks about the early career of Menkheprere. Okay, he arrives. So it tells the story of Menkheprere, right? And so it says here he arrived in Thebes in the year 25 of Smedes the first. So that must be a king that was alive during that time, because normally they don't say 2025 or 2026. They would say in the year of whatever king, right? And so by far the most important, so he said the most important document concerning Menkheprere is the text of the banishment stela. The banishment stela, it looks like this, bits and pieces. Yeah, the banishment stela. And so he talks about it's possible that Menkheprere was this person, the second, who was the second priest of Amun and not the high priest. Either way, he has this document. Now, from the stela, it is evident that the problems arose in Thebes when Menkheprere had not yet arrived in the city. So he came to put some things in order. Okay, it is stated that he had to go up river southwards to get there. Okay, this suggests that the palace where Menkheprere set out from was probably El Hibah, where the bulk of the troops from Upper Egypt were stationed. El Hibah was a highly important place for this dynasty, a priest of kings. And if Menkheprere was there, and if he was going to be chosen to succeed his brother as high priest, it may be understood and deduced that Menkheprere held the military responsibility for Upper Egypt also. So he not only had the spiritual information, he also had the military. This proves the fact that the priest of Amun had a lot of pull. So now, dealing with let me see if I can get to it. So it says for this time, one may assume that the following hierarchical structure prevailed in Upper Egypt, and then so at the top it says Pinjenin, in his position as king, would have handed down his Theban power principally to two trustworthy people that were none other than his two sons. One occupied the position of high priest, and the other would be a general station at El Hibah. So Menkheprere, his original job was a general, was a war general. But what did I say? I said that many times that these priests as well as kings underwent the same similar process. Okay, but over time their duties may change. So Menkheprere was part of that. He was part of that change where, just like Sobekneferu, who was originally supposed to be a priest and a priestess, she eventually became the queen of Egypt, right? Same thing here. Menkheprere, his original job was to be the general, but then something happened to the point to where he had to become the high priest of the priesthood of Amun, and he had to do some resetting, because by the 21st dynasty, they was in trouble. Okay, so therefore, So because the high priest of Amun also held the rank of commander-in-chief and leader, the Hej Tewi, therefore, while Mesera or Jed Kunsu Ankh held maximum responsibility in Karnak as high priest at the same time as the other brother. So Menkheprere would hold office as general of the troops in the military center of El Hibah. Now, despite the high priest of Amun being commander-in-chief, it seems, according to the article, it seems that the general stationed in El Hibah was not seen as a subordinate of the high priest, but more of his potential successor. So, yeah, the high priest was commander-in-chief, and the general was the other person, but they were basically the same. Okay. as far as rank. So once the high priest transitioned or whatever happened, the war general will become the priest, will become the high priest. So Menkheprere came to do a hard reset. Okay, he wanted to restore the priesthood of Amun, and so he had to change jobs. so Menkheprere, in a nutshell, in the short version, he was the high priest. He was a general, and then he became the high priest. But yeah, this banishment stele, I'm gonna have to look at this into more detail and get some more information on that, because yeah, it can go. So I'm not done with this. I'm not done with this priest here. But yeah, for the sake of time, we got to keep it moving. But now, dealing with the priests, the kings and the rulers. See, what happened is, beyond the political grandeur, Karnak concealed another purpose. And so this was a place where kings were being made and kings were being taught, right? So Karnak, I'm trying to get to Karnak was that place. And this is let me see if I can get this picture. This was a picture of King Seti the first teaching his son Ramesses the knowledge. So beyond the political grandeur, Karnak concealed another purpose, one known only to those who is initiated, right? And so we're going to get into that a little bit of that initiation. So yeah, this is going to be good. And so for the ancient Kemetic people, the temple was not simply a house for the Neteru. Okay, it was a map of creation. It was a school. It was a school for the soul, a place of transformation. The Hypostyle Hall may have served as a stage for initiation to higher mysteries, because there were other temples in and around Kemet. You see what I'm saying? And so they had to teach their local priests, and by the time they get to a certain level or to a certain age, they went on to the Grand Temple of Waset. You see what I'm saying? And so the Hypostyle Hall may have served as a stage for initiation to higher mysteries. Its architectural design moving from darkness into light, from narrow entryways to vast illuminated spaces, mirrored the soul's ascent from ignorance into divine understanding. The journey through its columns was not physical, but it was spiritual. So, but yeah. So this man here, okay, Menkheprere was one of those guys. And so now we're going to deal with the initiation part. We're going to deal with that. But before we do that, before we get to the initiation and the hidden path of light, we got to do a review. Now, according to the video, The Tragic Reign of Shiva's Last King, Leadership, Legacy, and Loss, who was the last king of Shiva? Hail Melikot, Theodorus II, Emperor Menelik, or King Solomon? A lot of people pick the other three, but the answer is Hail Melikot. Now, if you got it right, okay, you got an A for the day. If you got it correct, you got an A for the day. Let's go. So, initiation and the hidden path of light. Now, like I said, this kind of thing. This wasn't just mysticism or whatever. This was science. Okay, and so the Hypostyle Hall may have served, like I said, a stage for initiation to higher mysteries, but these spaces mirrored the soul's ascent from the ignorance into divine understanding. The journey through the columns was not just physical, but it was spiritual. Okay, think about it. Okay, each person had to, if you wanted to learn, if you wanted to study, you had to go to Karnak. You had to, and you had to go through those halls, and you had to interpret every part of that and get an understanding of each of those phases. Yeah, and so we have the what you call the initiation chambers, right? Think about this. All right, think about this. All right. Let me. I'm getting ahead of myself. So, but the coffin text says this. All right, spell 335. It says, I'm the one who come forth from the lotus, the one who rose from the waters of noon. My heart is washed clean, my body is renewed. I am light within the temple of darkness. Now, to the initiate, man, we're gonna get to it. The initiation chambers. All right. Now, let me see. I'm gonna make sure we're at the right place. Now, to the initiate, the Hypostyle Hall was the primordial swamp of creation, the Zep-Tepi. Okay, Zep-Tepi reborn, passing through its forest of stone was to retrace the first dawn or the beginning of beginnings of the world and the awakening of consciousness itself. Some Egyptologists have noted that all 12 towering columns of the central part, the central nave in AVE corresponded with the 12 hours of night. We discussed that. We mentioned how in the book of Gates, they represented the 12 hours of night, right? And so the 12 gates through which the sun, Ra, is passing through before his rebirth at dawn. The journey through the hall then was the same journey the soul takes through the underworld or the world of the ancestors. A descent into a shadow guided by sacred text and knowledge and reemerging into light. These columns themselves became initiatory symbols, papyrus stalks rising from cosmic waters, embodying the student's own ascent towards divine wisdom. Even the hieroglyphs, the meta nature on the walls concealed teachings for those who could read them. Now there was some meta nature that everybody could read and understand, but there was some that in order for you to understand and get that, you had to undergo that process. And then we have rituals of purification, chance of awakening, and cosmic diagrams inscribed in shadowed areas. Okay, shadow corridors, all mirrored the stages of spiritual rebirth. So from the temple of Luxor, it says this: he who knows the measure of the temple knows heaven. He who walks its path of light knows the sun in its rising. The ignorant see stone, but the wise see eternity. To stand beneath these columns was to be weighed and measured, not by the Neteru, but by truth itself. By truth itself. Now the temple became the teacher, and light is final initiation. Now, the initiation chambers. Now, deep within now we have the chambers. This is the awakening part of the servants or the candidates, right? Deep within the sacred precinct of Karnak, beyond the public courts and ceremonial halls, lay spaces not meant for the eyes of the uninitiated. These were the inner chambers of priestly initiation, places where knowledge was guarded, tested, and transmitted across generations. Now, to serve in the house of Amun or in Karnak was not just a matter of appointment. You just couldn't be appointed there. It was a process of information and a process of transformation. These priests of Karnak were not just people attending the rituals and just there burning incense. They were custodians of the divine knowledge, the keepers of Ma'at. Their duty was to maintain the balance between heaven and earth, light and darkness, order and chaos. But before they could approach the sanctuary of the Neteru and the ancestors, each candidate had to undergo a sacred journey, a symbolic death and rebirth known as the opening of the heart. They had to go through a path of purification. Just like all initiations and just like all these processes, the initiation began with some kind of purification. Okay, you had to do a reset. You had to get yourself together. You had to prepare yourself. You had to be duly prepared. And so for 40 days, the initiate, they lived in silence and simplicity within the temple compound. He washed his body in at the sacred lake each dawn, fasted from rich food, and spoke only the words of truth. This lake is still visible today beside the temple, symbolized by the primeval waters of noon, right? Every immersion was a descent into the cosmic waters and a return to the beginning of time and a cleansing of the self before re-entering creation anew. During this period, initiates studied the sacred text, right? They recited the hymns, they learned the geometry and the mysteries of the sky. They learned the language of the Netzeru and the ancestors, and they learned the different tones, how it was said, when it was said, and the art of measuring the heavens, looking at these celestial spheres and looking at the skies and everything. And so, and shout out to Baba Yakya. He goes into detail concerning the constellation of Sirius and Orion, because we have to understand the stars in order to understand the environment around us. So to serve Amun, or the hidden one, was to understand the patterns of creation itself. Then we have the Hall of Silence, right? Then we have the Hall of Silence, okay? At the culmination of the first stage, the initiate is led blindfolded into a small, dimly lit chamber. This was called the Hall of Silence, okay? Here, the candidate is confronted with the essence of initiation and the conquest of fear and illusion. Before him stood the priest of the hidden door, robed in white and gold. The elder asked only one question: do you seek to know the Netzeru, or to become as they are? The question again, the priest of the hidden door is asking him, do you seek to know the Netzeru, or to become as they are? The correct answer was not spoken. It had to be understood. Initiation was never about external things or whatever, but it was about awakening the heart and the mind, right? The blindfold symbolized the ignorance of ordinary perception, the darkness and unknown depths of self. It was only when the initiate learned how to see without eyes, they're able to perceive truth inwardly as the veil is removed. Then we have the Hall of Two Truths. Once the person is deemed worthy, once he or she is deemed worthy, the initiate was brought before a great relief or painted tablet showing the weighing of the heart. Now, we tend to ascribe the weighing of the heart as a person going taking a journey to the ancestors or into the duats. No, this weighing of the heart was regularly done and often. This was a Hall of Two Truths, the same cosmic principle mirrored in the duat, in the judgment hall scenes. Is seen in the book of Coming Forth by Day. But here, the judgment is not of the ancestors, but it is of the living. It is for the initiate. It is for the candidate. Okay, the initiate's own consciousness was at scale. His heart was weighed. His intentions were being checked. You see? So it was being weighed against the feather of Ma'at, or truth. And then the master declared, may your heart be light and your words true. For only those in harmony with Ma'at may hear or may bear the secrets of the hidden one. This symbolic trial marked the inner purification, a psychological reckoning that prepared the candidate to handle the sacred power and knowledge as well as responsibility. We may have to deal with that. When I'm thinking about it, we may have to deal with the Hall of Two Truths down a little bit later. We may have to break that down a little bit later, because the Hall of Two Truths is something that the people of Kemet really respected and revered, right? And so then we have the secret word. Yeah. Then we have the secret word. Next came the transmission of the Heka, H-E-K-A, Heka, the sacred word of power. Within a sealed chamber known as the Per-Heka, or the house of the word, the initiate receives instructions in the vibrational science of creation. Here, he learned that the Netzeru spoke the world into being. That sound, that vibration, when uttered with divine alignment, could shape reality. This was spiritual physics. This was metaphysics. I told you quite a few times, we as a people turn the meta into the physical. Okay, these chants, these intonations, the temples and hymns were all built in harmonic correspondence that resonated with the sacred geometry of the temple itself. The initiate was taught that every name of a Neteru was not a simple label. It was an energy. It was a power. Okay, to know the Neteru, to know the ancestors, was to wield the forces of nature and balance and as well as humility. At Karnak, this training reached the highest form. Yeah, you can get training in mentors. Yeah, you can get training in other places, but at Karnak, that's where you was able to get that secret word, that Heka. The priests of Amun were known as those who hear the voice. Because remember, Menkheprere was the one who said, I am the one who can see Amun, the hidden one's face. Meaning that they can attune their consciousness to a frequency of the divine, and through that resonance, sustain the temple's spiritual power. I believe when the priesthoods and the leaders neglected that, that was the beginning of the fall of Kemet. You see what I'm saying? Now, at the final stage, the initiate was led through the temple corridors just before dawn. Torches flickered as chants echoed from the Hypostyle Hall, calling upon the hidden one to awaken. At the first light of the morning, it pierced through the temple axis and illuminating the central sanctuary. The initiate emerged, purified, reborn as Hemnecher, servant of the Neteru. His mouth was anointed with sacred oils. His tongue was touched with gold, symbolizing truth. Okay, he was given a new name. Okay, one that would never be spoken outside of the temple walls. In that moment, he was no longer a seeker, but a vessel, a living link between the heavens and the earth, right? And so then there's a science of transformation that was taking place. Every aspect of his initiation reflected a deep spiritual science, a process aligning the human with the cosmic. The silence purified the mind, the sacred lake purified the body, and the word, the Heka, awakened the soul. And the sunrise, entering the temple through its east-west alignment, sealed the initiate into the rhythm of divine order. This is a major portion of how the ancient Egyptian priesthood perpetuated the sacred continuum through interdiscipline and cosmic alignment. Not just say ritual repetition and just doing it just to be doing it. The temples of Kemet were schools of consciousness, and Karnak was a grand university. Okay. Now, once they get out of that, they may have what's called the Festival of Opet. The Hypostyle Hall was alive with ritual. During the Opet festival, the golden statue of Amun Ra was carried from Karnak to Luxor's temple, accompanied by priests, musicians, and chanting devotees. Incense smoke hurled through the columns, and scent of lotus and myrrh filling the air. Right, the insubiti of the pharaoh wearing ceremonial crowns and flowing robes moved with purpose through the stone forest. Priests performed purification rites in the sacred lake, invoking divine blessings from the ancestors. Each step, each gesture, each song had meaning, and it had deep symbolism. It was designed to sustain cosmic balance and affirming the king's connection with the hidden one and reinforcing social and religious order. Now, observers would see the insubiti of the pharaoh as the embodiment of the divine on earth, while the hidden one behind these reliefs, the initiates and the priests understood a little bit more that the secret rites were being reaffirmed. It reaffirmed the eternal contract between the people and the ancestors. The hall was a stage for earthly power and celestial harmony simultaneously. Now, during the festival days, processions were basically wound through the forest of stone, priests carrying sacred barks upon their shoulders, the air thick with incense, and the chanting of hymns rolling like thunder beneath the columns. The most sacred of these was, of course, the Opet festival, right? And so there's a hymn. Get this. There's a hymn of the Opet festival. It says, "Come to thy house, O hidden one. Come to thy people." I'm sorry, to thy temple. The Lord of the thrones, thou comest to the place of thy delight. Your heart rejoices in Waset of the south. You do proceed to Luxor, the beautiful place of thy heart's desire. For the people of Thebes, this was more of Waset. This was more than ceremony. This was reassurance or a reset. Okay, the Neteru had not abandoned them, and the Nile would flood again, and Ma'at would bring forth balance. So, in every aspect of the Hypostyle Hall carries spiritual meaning. Columns model the papyrus stalks, and reeds evoke creation, while painted ceilings mimic the night sky. Light entering through the windows at precise moments of festivals illuminated specific reliefs. They didn't. Each light beam didn't show at each column all the time, right? The hidden one is central. The pharaoh is his earthly representative, mediates between the Neteru and the ancestors and the people. The meta nature tell not only of the story of the kings, but also the eternal truths, the balance of Ma'at and cycles of life and death, and the journey of the soul, and the unseen forces guiding the Nile and the heavens. Walking through that hall is like reading, say, a living text. Okay, stone, light, and shadow combine to teach and guide and to inspire, right? So there's the thing, is Ma'at in stone. Okay, in the Hypostyle Hall, it's a theater, but it's also the embodiment of Ma'at, right? And in the book of Coming Forward by Day, it says, "Hail to thee, the great Neteru, the Lord of truth and justice," which is Ma'at. Okay, "I have come to thee, my Lord, and I have brought myself hither to behold thy beauties. I know thee, I know thy name. Thou dwellest in the hall of two truths." Here, the hall of two truths. The place where the heart is weighed was made physical. Entering the Hypostyle Hall was like stepping into the judgment hall of the great tribunal, surrounded by the Neteru, surrounded by the ancestors, watching, judging, and affirming the eternal dance of truth, right? And so then there's some hidden symbolism. There's some hidden symbolism in the meta-nature. In the hieroglyphs, in the hall, hieroglyphs in the hall or the Hypostyle Hall, it had layers of meaning. Some depict offerings, other encode magical spells or references to the duat. Patterns echo celestial cycles, while repeated motifs reinforce royal authority. Then we have the Book of Gates. Okay, an ancient funerary text describes gates as portals leading to divine realms, and reliefs in Karnak can be interpreted as earthly mirrors of these portals. Every carving is focused and intentional, communicating to priests, the pharaoh, and worshippers alike, blending history, spirituality, and cosmic order to a single narrative, right? And so then you have these, like I mentioned before, these temples were both physical and spiritual, right? So this was the portal to the afterlife. Beyond its physicality, the hall was a map of the unseen. Okay, the Kemetic people saw their temples as gateways, as thresholds between worlds. In the Book of Gates, it says the great God enters through the gate, and the gods of the horizon open to him. The hidden portals are thrown wide, and the doors of the sky are open to Ra. He traverses the ways of darkness, and the ancestors of the other caverns bow to him. Okay, and I mentioned before, like when we talked about the false door, in tombs, they weren't to fool the tomb robbers. It was actually for the ancestors to go back and forth. To walk through the Hypostyle Hall at Karnak was to journey with the hidden one through the underworld, passing through symbolic gates carved into stone. Each column, each doorway was a threshold to eternity. And so then they were astronomically aligned, astronomical alignments and cosmic symbolism. Karnak was a celestial instrument. Solstice, equinoxes, and star positions such as Orion and Sirius were reflected in the hall's alignment. Sunlight striking specific columns illuminated reliefs at key festivals and key times of the year, marking the passage of time and celestial events. Now, the Book of Gates describes the portals to the divine as an ancestral world. In Karnak, these alignments transform stone into a cosmic map. Each column, relief, and corridor was a bridge between the mortal and the eternal, embedding cosmic knowledge into the very architecture of the hall. And so Karnak was not only earthly, it was actually for the celestial. It was connected to the equinoxes, it was connected to the solstices, the sun streamed through the axis, as well as the moon at night. Many scholars believe that Karnak was attuned to the star Sirius, okay, whose rise heralded the Nile's flood, okay, and so it had a connection to the stars itself, and now it was also connected to other temples. Karnak is the heart of the sacred network. Its axes connect visually and spiritually to Luxor's temples, the sacred lakes, and distant monuments along the Nile. The Hypostyle Hall was not isolated. Okay, it was a central node of spiritual map. It was a spiritual map connecting the earthly, celestial, and divine realms. Worshippers moving between the temples participated in a carefully orchestrated ritual landscape designed to sustain Ma'at and royal authority. Like I said, Karnak wasn't isolated. It was a beating heart. It was basically in the middle of everything. It was a part of the sacred geography, stretching from the Nile Valley to the Valley of the Kings. The alignment between Karnak and Luxor was more than architectural. It was a sacred artery. It was basically the bloodline of Kemet, through which the lifeblood of divinity flowed through festivals. Here, geography became theology, right? And the science became sacred. Yet, for all we know, mysteries still remain. There's some things we still need to learn about, right? Did the architects intend every celestial? Did they intend for every celestial alignment to be there, or do we impose patterns after the fact? Do we add on to this? That's the thing. Was the hall a stage for kings or a cosmic machine designed to generate divine power? All right. Even ancient Egyptians marveled at Karnak enormity. Some texts speak of the naturals themselves guiding the builder's hands. So for us, the hall remains an enigma, part of a monument, part of a riddle, okay, part of a living myth, right? And so get this though. Get this. There are some hidden chambers in Karnak. Yeah. There's some hidden chambers in Karnak. So nearby lies secrets of kings past, say KV 35, the tomb of Amenhotep II, and DB 320, the royal cache, where pharaohs' mummies were re-entered for protection. Excavations reveal artistry, ritual continuity, and mystery is still unsolved. How exactly were massive stones transported? Don't know. How the celestial alignment, how were celestial alignments determined so precisely? We don't know yet. But Karnak preserves these mysteries, each column, each relief, each shadow corridor as a story waiting to be told. But yeah, there is some chambers. There's some chambers under Karnak. Yeah, in and around Karnak. And so centuries after Karnak's peak, it's still revered. Greeks identified Amun with Zeus, and Romans built shrines within the walls, and early Christians later on transformed parts into churches, and even the Muslims turned parts of that into mosques. Karnak endured the shape shifting with each new faith, each new path, yet always retaining its aura of the sacred. This Hypostyle Hall remained a place where the human being needs to touch the eternal. They found a place, right? And so now, coming up, We will be dealing with the hidden chambers of the hidden one. We're gonna deal with the hidden chambers of Amun. We're gonna try to do like a part 2 to this. All right. So, but yeah, beneath the vast sky of Thebes, where the Nile still glimmers with the light of dawn, the Hypostyle Hall stands as more than a ruin. It stands as the living breath of eternity. Its stones, though weathered, still speak. They echo the ambitions of the kings and the prayers of the priests, the chants of the devotees, and the hymns of the unseen. Okay, Karnak's Hypostyle Hall is not merely an artifact in the sense, it is history. Okay, it is a conversation across time. It's a cause and effect. Each column is a pillar of meaning rooted in earth, yet reaching for the heavens. Each beam of light that falls across the hieroglyphs rekindles the sacred dialogue between man and the cosmos. Okay, so now check this out. You listen to King Cam Ujumbe Podcast, but check this out. We got a few things. This Moon's hidden chambers. We're going to talk about the hidden chambers of our moon. We're going to talk about that coming up. And if you want to learn more about Ethiopia, Kush, and Kemet, like and subscribe, right? So today we talked about Karnak's Hypostyle Hall, the intro and review, architectural marvel columns. We talked about Unveiling, the architects of power, the power of our moon's priesthood, initiations, festivals, and sacred ceremonies, whispers of divine, the daily life a little bit, and astronomical alignments, right? Now, here's some books. Okay, Temple of the Cosmos. That is a good one. That is a good one. Let me see. I have it. I just picked it up. The Temple of the Cosmos. That's a good one. Sacred Science. That's another good book. Temple in Man, an Egyptian Miracle. If you ever want to get more into the symbolism and esoteric science when it comes down to the temples of Kemet, get those books. Get those books. Now, I have some good news. Good news is coming. Good news is coming, fam. Will it be a new book? Is there a new book coming? Time will tell. We're gonna see. We're gonna see. Yeah. Will it be a new book? Yeah, we're gonna find out. So, but coming up, the 7 Hathors, the Sisters of Faith, Birth and Destiny. You guys typed in 7 about a month ago, and we're gonna deal with the 7 Heteru. And so we got a mini series coming up really soon. The 7 Hathor stars, mothers, and the judgment of kings. Okay, we're gonna deal with that. So get ready for that. Get ready for that. And King Tut's Tutankhamun's tomb. We're gonna break that down. We are going to go into the boy King's tomb. We're gonna break some of that down, just like we broke down Karnak's Hypostyle Hall. So we're gonna talk about King Tutankhamun's tomb, the untold African story. Yeah, because he is, believe it or not, King Tut was African. And we're gonna talk about because Brother Mo made a request. He asked about the Nubians that taught Howard Carter. Yeah, we're gonna deal with that. We're gonna deal with that. And this is the shrine of King Tut. For like the last week or so, to come down to studying, this has arrested my attention. Okay, this has caught my attention when it come down to studying. It's something about the shrine of King Tut. We're gonna look into that also. We're gonna look into that also. And so because it's something about, because everybody focuses on the coffin and everything else, but people are neglecting the shrine. Yeah. So check and roll real quick. And Ujumbe members, Sister Abina Scott, Brother Mo. Shout out to Brother Mo. He's doing it big. Brother Isu, One Voice Africa. Shout out to One Voice Africa. They're doing wonderful things. They're talking about Pan-African information. They're sharing information with the people. Shout out to Brother Isu and the fam out there in Canada. Yeah. So now, so join the membership, because what they get is they get the videos first. They get all the information first, and they help me with some of the content that you're getting. So join the membership. because membership has its benefits. Now, let me check roll. Let me check roll real quick. I know Sister Linda came in the mix. Shout out to Sister Linda. These people either they're adding value to the conversation or they just subscribed. All right, Miss Karen, Sergey, Brad Kelly, Marie. Shout out to Marie, Sister Linda, Baba Yakia, Brother Edwin Moore, Library Without Borders, a little bit of me, honey. The alumni, shout out to the Ujumbe alumni, Valerie J, Brown Like Me TV, Kemetic Nation. I just talked with Kemetic Nation, and we're gonna have them out here. We're gonna have them come back pretty regularly. They're gonna come back on the second Sunday of a month, and they're gonna break some other things down. And shout out to Global African Progress. Shout out to Brother Ferguson and Miss Blue. If you are present, I didn't call your name, like and comment, present. All right. So, and shout out to Fermo for the glasses. Books A Million, It's a Black Thing, Ethiopian Airlines, Amazon, Unice, Mika's Hair, Love Me Hair, and all the affiliate links are in the description. Now, like I said, if you want us to go into some of this esoteric and symbolic information, you got to get these books first. All right. And the affiliate link is in the description. But yeah, we're about to do some deep dives, and I want you all to take that journey with me, and so we can all learn together, right? Now, let me see. All right. Now, if you like the content, share with somebody that may enjoy it, or on Facebook or your social media platform of choice, right? All right, so listen to King Cam Ujumbe Podcast. Ujumbe means message, and today's message is Karnak's Hypostyle Hall, Echoes of the Pharaohs. If you want to catch up on our Kemetic Science Unveiled, I got the playlist for you. If you want to catch up with one of our other videos, I got that for you too. Listen to King Cam Ujumbe Podcast. Ujumbe means message, and I will talk to you later.